he shouldn't have been allowed to have a gun.
This is a Bill of Rights, not a Bill of Needs. It's not a bill of what I think you should have. I have a very low trust level for government, or low trust level for anybody else to take care of my family. I believe more guns means less crime, not more guns means more crime. Enshrined in our Constitution, a Bill of Rights, and that Bill of Rights says that there's a right to bear arms in defense of ourselves and in defense of our constitutional form of government, and we should have suitable weapons to do so.
What is it that the new House Speaker, the new GOP House Speaker, Mike Johnson, thinks about this tragedy last night? What did Mike Johnson have to say about all these innocent lives lost and about the gun violence in this country that is talked about way too much after a tragedy happens? What did Mike Johnson, the right-wing Christian radical, have to say about all this? Well, you won't be surprised.
This is a dark time in America. We have a lot of problems, and we're really, really hopeful and prayerful. Prayer is appropriate in a time like this, that the evil can end and this senseless violence can stop. And so that's the statement this morning on behalf of the entire House of Representatives. Everyone wants this to end, and I'll leave it there.
What a complete idiot this guy is. What a coward and what a right-wing religious zealot nut this guy is. He thinks prayer is going to stop this from happening. It's interesting. Every single time we have one of these mass shootings, you hear the same things from these right-wing buffoons, just like Mike Johnson. Thoughts and prayers. Let's talk about prayer, as if prayer would have stopped this guy from doing what he did. Let me be very clear. Prayer is not going to get AR-15s off the shelves. Prayer is not going to get illegal guns off the streets. Prayer is not going to get these right-wing idiots from making it easier for people, especially crazy people, from getting their hands on weapons of war. Mike Johnson, you are a disgrace. You are a right-wing nut, and you are despicable, is what you are. And while you were talking about prayer, Joe Biden was calling some of the family members who lost loved ones. That's far more valuable than you looking into a camera and speaking to members of the media and saying, well, it's really appropriate to prayer. We got to pray for this violence to stop. No, you idiot. Morons like you have blood on your hands because scumbags like you refuse to put laws on the books that would make it more difficult for mentally ill people and criminals to get their hands on weapons. Prayer is not the answer, you stupid buffoon. Let's talk about this guy, Mike Johnson, whose only statement today was we should all pray. You stupid idiot. You stupid idiot. You disgusting excuse for a human being. You right-wing zealot, you. You should be ashamed of yourself. This is the far majority of the alt-right Republican Party today. They'll talk about prayer, but they don't want to talk about implementing actual laws that'll save people's life. But yeah, let's just sit down and pray. Did praying help all those innocent people? The innocent African Americans that died in that church that day? Or the innocent people throughout the country that at times have been in synagogues that have been executed? Prayer didn't seem to help them. If you want to pray on your own time, you go ahead and do that, you scumbag. But if you're an actual lawmaker, it's your job to put laws on the books to make Americans safer. All I hear from these people is thoughts and prayers. Haven't you had it? I've had it. Thoughts and prayers. That's what Lauren Boebert put on her Twitter page. I'm praying for all the people. Yeah, while you're praying, your next Christmas greeting card will be your kids holding AR-15s. You evil witch, you. What have Republicans done for decades to help the American people when it comes to gun control? What have they done? This madman who committed this atrocious act of killing at least 18 people and injuring so many others was actually a firearms instructor. Yeah, he served the country in the U.S. Army Reserves. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? He should have never been able to get his hands on a gun. Why, you ask? Well, he was committed to a mental health facility not that long ago for 2 weeks over the summer, and he had made threats of killing innocent people. He had told family members and friends that he was hearing things. Joining me right now on the line, his name is Eric J. Friday. He is a trial attorney specializing in family and constitutional law. And he has some expertise in the areas of firearms laws and Second Amendment rights. Very happy to have Eric joining us right now on the show. Eric, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Doing
Pre-
good.
Appreciate it, Eric. Thank you for the time. I guess my first basic question would be, what was your first reaction when you heard about this mass shooting that took place last night in Maine?
Same. My reaction is almost every time is why are more people not taking responsibility for protection of themselves and their families? I have a very low trust level for government or low trust level for anybody else to take care of my family. I believe that those in the community are in the best position. My friends, people that I associate with daily, I believe more guns means less crime, not more guns means more crime.
So let me ask you about that. If that is the case, that more guns equals less crime, why do we have virtually more violence, gun violence, than any other country in the world? Yet we have just about more guns than any other country in the world. You don't see that correlation as possibly being the opposite. You don't think you just think that's a coincidence?
Well, the problem comes in. You say more guns means more guns means more gun crime. You don't consider and I have this argument with people all the time. They don't look at the violence numbers overall in other countries. I see guns as a method to stopping crime. Period. God made men. Samuel Colt made them equal. There's a very high rate of knife violence or knife crime in other countries, especially in Great Britain, since they banned guns. So for that reason, I don't think it's a fair comparison to say what is the crime rate versus what is the gun crime
You think
rate.
it's a do you think it's a fair comparison to compare knives to an AR-15?
I think violence is violence, and I abhor all violence, and I believe that all of us should have the ability to carry the means to stop violence against ourselves
I
and our.
agree. Listen, Eric, I agree with you. We agree fundamentally. We don't want this to happen. And I guess my question to you is when I think about some of these assault weapons, as you know,
Well, I don't use that term. I'm not going to. Yeah, if you use the term assault weapon, we're talking about a fully automatic weapon. Those are already illegal. I mean, if we want to talk about a modern sporting rifle, a rifle that functions just like the hunting rifle I grew up hunting with, that's one thing. That's not an assault rifle.
okay, well, let's talk about the weapons that were used, the AR-15s that were used at Uvalde, Las Vegas, Buffalo, Boulder, Orlando, Parkland, Nashville, San Diego. Very similar types of weapons that were used in some of the biggest mass shootings in this country. I'm
And
specific. I'm specifically talking about those weapons that were built for one reason and one reason only, not for self-defense, to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time. Those are the weapons that I'm talking about, and I don't think that everyday citizens like you and me should be allowed to have those weapons because I don't think we should use them for self defense because that's not what they're for.
well, Brian, I mean, I'd say this without, as you know, you asked me on here as I understand as a lawyer.
Sure.
And as a lawyer, my answer to you is a bill of rights, not a bill of needs. It's not a bill of what I think you should have. Once upon a time in the state I grew up in, people didn't think that certain people should be able to vote based on their skin color.
Mhm.
So what one group of people in our country thinks another group should have, needs to have, wants to have is not really relevant to the conversation. We, the people enshrined in our, and this goes back to what the Supreme Court recently ruled. We, the people enshrined in our Constitution, a Bill of Rights. And that Bill of Rights says that there's a right to bear arms in defense of ourselves and in defense of our constitutional form of government. And we should have suitable weapons to do so. The founders, in their minds, individual citizens could own cannons and warships. So I don't think an AR-15 is such a stretch. They do ban us from owning fully automatic M16s, which even that I have a problem with that being banned. I don't believe that there should be limits on people having those type of arms that are suitable for military use because we are all supposed to be part of the militia. That's the way our founding fathers intended.
So, but I would say when the Bill of Rights was written, especially the Constitution, we had something called muskets. I think technology changes, weaponry changes, but by your standards of what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
you have no problem with people owning grenades, tankers. I mean, where does it end?
Well, I mean, I would say that the standard, the way the court has interpreted it to date, has been those weapons capable and in common use amongst most of the citizenry. AR-15s are undeniably the most common rifle in use by the citizenry. This guy that had a gun yesterday,
Mhm.
he is the epitome of what everybody tells us every background check should have protected us from this person of anybody, right? I mean, if we can't trust the guy that is in the United States Army is an instructor for the United States Army, is a currently serving reservist. If we can't trust that guy not to some point have a problem, can we trust anybody? And that includes the people that are part of government.
He shouldn't have been allowed to have a gun. This is somebody that had a
Let's
criminal
push.
record. Yeah, well, I mean, the guy had a criminal record, and
I haven't seen that. What was his record? Please.
uh, they haven't gone into detail. All they've said is he has a criminal record. I don't have that in front of me, but what I do know is he checked himself into a mental health facility for 2 weeks. The guy should have never had a gun to begin with. I'm not saying every Democrat is perfect. By the way, they're not.
What? I know.
But here's where we fundamentally disagree on a couple things. First of all, I disagree with that premise because I believe Democrats for decades now have been trying to do a hell of a lot more than Republicans have been trying to do. In fact, Republicans are making it easier for people to get access to guns. Where I believe Joe Biden and you can disagree with what the
No, I don't never disagree on that.
yeah, but you can disagree on Joe Biden's policies and an assault weapons ban that he wants to pass. We can disagree on that, but as a whole, Republicans care more about their A+ rating from the NRA. Democrats could give two craps what their rating is from the NRA, and I think that speaks volumes of where the two parties are at right now. I would say my definition of a hypocrite is somebody that calls themselves pro-life. I'm not speaking about you. I don't know what your stance is on that, but Republicans in office today that call themselves pro-life and they're so concerned about the unborn child, but then when that child is born, they don't want to put anything on the books to make us safer. Now, if your opinion is more guns are the answer, obviously we fundamentally disagree on that. I don't think more guns in society makes us safer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one side that says more guns are safer. I'm obviously on the side of less guns, but I think fundamentally we also both want the same thing. We obviously don't want innocent people to be hurt or die. And in my personal, and I think you'll agree with me on this, we need more conversations like this. And I think we need to come somewhere in the middle. And some people might not like that. But obviously, Eric, what we're doing now is not working. Right now, what we're doing as a society is
I
not
agree.
working. And we have to make changes. Now, you might disagree, or I might disagree with some of those changes. We need to make changes. And there are not enough lawmakers in Washington that are willing to raise their hand and say, I'm willing to do that. I think most Democrats are. And I think Republicans need to say, you know what? I don't agree with the Democrats on everything. Let's sit down and talk. Republicans, many of them don't even want to talk about this stuff. They say thoughts and prayers, which I think is so disrespectful, to what is going on in society as a whole, because we hear it after every mass shooting. But, I guess we got to end it there. But I can tell you this, sir, I'd love to have this conversation with you
I'd
again.
love to come back.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it with you. And I think as Americans, we need to have more of these conversations. And I do respect your opinion, Eric, and I appreciate you coming on the show, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Appreciate that. In my personal opinion, as I've talked about assault weapons a lot on this show, there was an assault weapons ban in the early 90s. It worked. Gun violence was down. If you don't believe me, you can go look that up yourself. Then it fizzled out because of Republicans. I know that might be a shocker to some of you. Republicans allowed this bill to fizzle out. There is no reason why anybody in this country needs an AR-15 to defend themselves. I don't want to take all your guns away. I think if you're a law-abiding citizen and you're not a felon, you should be allowed to purchase guns and you should be allowed to defend yourself. I have a serious problem with someone that turns 18 years old. The day they turn 18, they're allowed to walk into a gun store like the Uvalde shooter did the day he turned 18. You want to make it easier for people to have guns, like so many other lawmakers that are on the right in Washington. What are your solutions? You think more guns are going to make us safer? It's not a coincidence that per 100 people in this country, per capita, we have 140 guns. We are obsessed with guns in this country. It is a gun-obsessed culture in the United States of America. Don't talk about mental illness when there are mentally ill people all over the world. What makes us unique? Culture, the gun culture in this country. When we have lawmakers, politicians, idiots like Lauren Boebert, and I'm also going to throw Mike Johnson in that mix too. He's also an idiot because when you talk about prayer and you have nothing of substance to say after another mass shooting, you're an idiot. Johnson is an embarrassment to this country, like so many on the evangelical right. What are your solutions? Have you heard any logical solutions from Republicans on this issue? Ever? After the Uvalde shooting, it was basically, according to Ted Cruz, lock the door, harden our schools. As if locking a door would have been a deterrent for this 18-year-old madman who had just shot his grandmother in the face. You think a locked door would have stopped him from going into that school and killing a bunch of innocent kids? Of course not. It's ridiculous, just like everything else in the Republican Party. They care more about an A-plus rating from the NRA than they do your life or my life or our children's lives. They'll talk about abortion and how it's, the worst thing in the world, killing our children every day. They'll call women murderers. But then when it comes to somebody with an AR-15 going in there executing a bunch of kids, they're mum on the issue. They'll just throw their hands in the air and say, there's really not much we can do.